gotten this thing inside the garage here. We let it run for a bit, and I'm noticing a lot of oil drips on the ground where I backed it in. So we're gonna take this thing up on the hoist and see how bad it looks. I haven't even looked underneath it yet. I think it may be power steering. If it's a power steering leak, that would probably be the best situation that it could be. I'm just gonna let the hood down a bit because I don't want to smash out my light that doesn't work anymore. Okay, let's bring this thing up and we'll take a look at the bottom side of this together. Hopefully it's not that bad. Hopefully. It's not that bad. It's really not. Now, it's bad for being an 80s GM, but for being an 80s GM here in Ontario, most of them are already in the ground growing plants out of them. So let's take a look underneath this together. So this is the leak I'm talking about. But if you take a look, I'm really not seeing anywhere that it's coming out except for back here. And that's power steering because that's coming from the steering rack itself. But I'm not seeing anywhere where there's a huge amount of oil coming out. Now, I had this car running and then I backed it up farther, so I really think that's power steering. I don't think that's oil or transmission fluid at all. So front subframe looks pretty good, a little crusty, but honestly it's not that bad. I think the cat's plugged because you can just feel the heat coming off of this thing. So we are gonna cut the cat out of this. I'm probably just gonna 9-wire the exhaust around that sway bar link just so it doesn't drag on the ground and get hooked. We're not putting a header onto this unless something mysteriously happens. Back here, the frame looks really good. Look at this. For an 80s GM, this is really not that bad. The main pinch welds of the rockers are good, right up till about there. That's not so good. But the rest of it looks half decent. Again, on this side, a little bit bad, a little bad right there too. But back here, where it matters, in the frame is pretty good. A little crusty right up there. But the rear rails look good. Let's face it, this thing's not gonna be a tank. It's really not. But it's better than what it could be. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna take all the rear tires off this. We're gonna take all the brakes off and just run the spindles, get the drums off, get the pads off. We're gonna cut off the gas tank hangers, cut the e-brake off, cut the catalytic converter out, 9-wire up the exhaust. Different spindle setups. The steering is actually on the strut, way up there. So that is less likely for the strut and for the steering to break. It doesn't put as much stress on it, which is nice. Not liking that aluminum mount right there. We might change that out to a little piece of 2x2 steel or 1x1 steel. But honestly, this could be much worse than what it is. Everything looks pretty good. It does have no brakes, so I think I'm gonna have to run all new brake lines to the 2 front tires. We'll get some donuts on the back, take all the rear brakes off, and we'll call this thing pretty much rocking. As soon as we get brakes and then we start putting our gas tank and our cage in it, then just the windows got to come out. So since I'm not keeping any of this, probably just going to use the plasma cutter and cut it all off. Because of how long it sat, none of this is going to come apart nicely. Like, I'm happy I didn't even break a wheel stud there. These are 13-inch 5/100 rims. Look how dinky that thing is. Oh yeah, there's no way that's turning. We're just going to get a hammer and try to pound it off. If it doesn't come off with us within the first 5 or 10 hits, we're going to change to the plasma cutter. Maybe I should put on my safety glasses because the disc is just disintegrating. Yeah, something tells me this isn't going to come apart nicely. Maybe for the fact it just broke into like 30 pieces there. Whatever, keep pounding. She's turning! Did not need the plasma cutter. Brakes almost look brand new on the back of this. Too bad. So sad. Take it all apart. Take it all out. Don't need it. I'm really good at taking brakes apart. So there you go. Now that wheel's freed up, we just have to put new brake lines to the front tires because I'm pretty sure the rear ones are gone anyways. Now this is a concern for me. All that right there, I don't like that, but there's really nothing I can do. Let's get a tire on here that holds air, maybe a Cavalier donut if I got one or two laying around, and move to the other side. So I got both rear wheels done, and that one spins freely. There's more rust on this side, don't you guys worry about that. And I only had one Cavalier donut. I sold all the rest of mine to another derby guy, so he's got them all. So the two rear tires spin freely now. Now I came up to the front, and I just quickly took the Sawzall and chopped off all the crap I didn't need. Inner wheel wells, plastic side skirts, bottom of valence, a bumper, all that fun stuff. So what we're going to do now, I have to go charge the camera because it's got 1%. I'm going to undo the brake line here, and I'm going to undo the brake line at the same spot at the other side. Might be okay right there. And I'm going to run new brake line to those two and plug the rears. Now this master is a little bit different. It does have 4 lines coming right out of the master. This is before ABS was installed in some of these cars. So I do have to plug off the 2 rear ones. Well, just plug 2 and choose 2 for the front, and we'll only have front brakes on it. Everything's out of the back, so no matter what, it will stay spinning freely all the time. Just like that. Wheel bearing sounds pretty bad. That's also the original spare from 1987. So all we're going to do now is take the torch, take a little bit of heat, try breaking these apart, and go from there. My camera's just gone into the red, so it's below 1% right now. So that's the plan. I'm going to head up to the house, throw this camera on charge, and I'm going to start running new brake lines in this thing. So I'll see you guys in about 20 minutes when I'm done the brake lines and the camera's charged a bit. So my wife came back last night and we were able to bleed the brakes. Driver's side, I did not end up replacing any of the brake lines or anything. And the pads actually look fairly new. Now,
I wish that was the case with the passenger side. Passenger side, I did have to run a new brake line, as you can see it right there. We bled all the brakes. I took the torch, I heated up the caliper, so there was that way I didn't break off the bleeder nipple. I was able to bleed all the brakes on this with pretty much 0 issues. So I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah, so at the state we're at now, we're going to probably bring this thing down on the hoist. We're going to start taking a look at it and maybe getting ready for a cage and some other stuff. Got to cut the hole in the hood, put the window bar on, all that fun stuff. So there's lots more we can do. But as of right now, that is brakes done, brake line done. So now we have it running, we have it stopping. Now we got to make it safe. And just so you guys know, gas tank on the front bumper is not safe. So we'll be moving that inside, redoing all of our fittings, making sure that the connections are good for the fuel lines and all that other stuff, putting toggle switches in, and putting a neutral bypass switch into this so you can just start it by touching a wire off the positive. Because this car is so old that in neutral it will not start, it has to be in park. One of the other things that we're going to do is we're going to remove the air conditioning belt because it is actually something that could cause this thing to lose power. We're just going to cut this with a knife. Nothing else is driven off this other than the AC. We're going to leave the AC compressor just because it doesn't do us any damage leaving it in, but we are going to take the belt off. So other than that, we're pretty much done for tonight. So thanks for watching, boys and girls, and we'll see you back here tomorrow on this car, on the Buick. I did watch a video on YouTube on how to say the name. It's called the Calais. I think Cialis is what we're going with here. So thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.